We will now determine the antiderivative of f for this given graph. So we have been given the graph of f, and we are also seeing three more graphs, that is graph A, graph B, and graph C. And we have to choose one of them, which is the antiderivative of graph of f. So before we do this, let's try to understand some information regarding the graphs of f and its derivative. So here I have given the graphs of both f as well as the f prime. uh, the the graph in black color is the graph of f. The one shows in which shows in blue color is the graph of its derivative f prime. So let's try to understand this. So we have this important information, that is wherever f is increasing, its derivative will be positive, and wherever f is decreasing, its derivative will be negative. We can clearly see that from the graph. So I'm going to start from x equal to 0 and uh, go through this graph of f. So when we do this, when you look at the graph of only the f, that is the one which shows in black color, here it increases and increases to this point. Till this point it keeps increasing. At the same time, if you look at the graph of f prime, that is the one which shows in blue color, it's starting from the high positive, and it is still remains positive until this point. It remains positive, which means it actually coincides. We can clearly see that wherever this is increasing, the graph of its derivative is positive. And after which, that is, this is approximately zero point 0.8. If you look at the graph of f, from this point to x equal to 2, the graph of f is decreasing, because we know that it keeps decreasing. As you can look at the graph, it just decreases from high value of 1 to 0. So at the same interval, if you look at the graph of f prime, so we can see that it is negative. So it goes like this and reaches the maximum negative, and it comes back and still negative. That is, from this interval zero point 0.8 to zero point 0.2, it's still negative till this point to 2. At the same time, the graph of f is after the x equal to 2, it starts increasing, which means its derivative has to be positive, which we can clearly see from here that it is positive, which is above the x-axis. So this is the basic information which we should be familiar with when we try to uh, form the or find the graphs of f and its derivative. One important thing here is we are actually given the graph of the derivative function, which means this basically is the graph of f prime, and we have to determine the graph of f, because only when you because we have to find the antiderivative of f, which means the given graph itself is the derivative of some other function, that is the original function. So basically we have to reverse our process, or whatever that we have understood from here. When you correlate this problem with this concept, we are actually given this blue graph, and we have to determine the black graph. So it's a kind of reverse process that we have to interpret over here. So let's do that. Now let's start off with the f, which we assume that it is a graph of f prime. So starting from this point, there is this interval till this point, we can clearly see that it is positive, which means its graph of f, that is its original graph, should be increasing. We can see that this graph A, which is showing up in black color, this is increasing. So we, at the moment, we say that it could be A, and at the same time, the graph of f is decreasing, because it just goes down and down. So you can clearly ignore the graph of B. Now it is only the graph could be either A or the graph of C. This graph of C is also increasing till this point. It is increasing. However, after which, if you look, come back to the graph of the f prime, that is the derivative of f, after this point, let me show up in some color. So after this point, it is negative, which means the graph of f has to be decreasing. So clearly we can see that only the graph of A is decreasing after this point, which I have indicated, but not the graph of C, because the graph of C is still increasing. As you can see here, it's still increasing. So clearly it is only the graph of A. Only the graph of A is the antiderivative of f, or in fact, if we assume the graph of f as f prime, this is f prime, the graph given in A is basically the graph of f. So it's actually the graph of A is the antiderivative of f.